The simplest way to explain it that really unlocked it for me, 10, 15 years ago, is kind of trying to put yourself in God's shoes, or understand God's perspective pre-humans. Okay, so you kind of like, what was the problem going on in the scriptures? So God shows up. He wants to bring his blessing, goodness, order, and fruit and who he is to the world. He wants to kind of like, that's God. That's actually a part of the nature of God, is that he's almost like forever spilling, the cup is forever spilling over, because that's what it means when when the triune God is like loving one another in relationship and in family together, technically. Is it always, love always has a multiplication to it, like by its technicality. That even I think applies on a lot of other things we can talk about with birth control, et cetera, and all these things, but it has generativity to it. So God is spilling over that blessing into the world. Okay. And he wants to push it out into the world. How is he going to do that? Because it's untamed, right? There's Garden of Eden, but outside of the garden, it's kind of still an untamed kind of chaotic, nature. And so it's just very simple to understand, well, how is he going to do that, right? Before humans come, what would you do? And it's like, there's so many different ways to do that, right? Like if we were actually God today and we needed to bring blessing and order and beauty and goodness into the rest of the world, how would we do that? A lot of us would probably start the United Nations, or we would, get a nonprofit going, or we would start, some big churches that meet in warehouses and have them serve the city, right? Whatever. You can go on and on. We could start, if it's Elon Musk, you're probably going to get a bunch of robots together, right? And see if they can solve the problem. But it's interesting when you really realize at the end of the day, God's primary choice to solve that problem was creating a man and a woman, a father and a mother. That was his primary solution when he had a blank whiteboard, right? And then he says, hey, this problem is so large, you two actually can't do it really alone. So I'm going to give you a capacity. I'm going to give you a capacity to multiply yourself literally, to literally make more of you so that you can go do this job appropriately. And that's just kind of like, when you see it from that perspective, it's kind of wild to realize how much it makes sense, but also how interesting it is that that was God's solution. There is other ways, of course, you can bring blessing and order into the world, even today as we're on earth as humans. But I do think it's fair to say his plan A, or his dominant plan, is through families. And then when you think about a nonprofit or a church or whatever these other things, those are most healthy when they're what? A collection of healthy families. So it's like, that is the building block. That is the Lego piece that kind of builds the rest. And so that's where I start and kind of understand that, like, another way to put it succinctly is God's vision for the world was to bring his vision into the world. He wanted to use multi-generational family teams on mission, right? And so it's kind of three buckets: multi-generational, family team, on mission. So multi-generational is, he says, hey, it's going to take you a long time to do this. I'm going to give you a capacity for kids, right? Family team, he said, it's not just men, and it's not just women, and it's not just one human or just two humans, but it's actually male and female put together as one. And then on mission, he says, go create, subdue, bring order, etc. So that's how I would articulate it. I don't know, Jeremy, if you have anything you would add to that.
Yeah, that's right on. Yeah, it's all really encapsulated in the mission statement that God actually spoke over the first family. So everything Jeff just described is right there, Genesis 1:28. It said, God blessed them and said to them, be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth and subdue it, rule over creation. And so what he's saying is, number one, he says it to them. And so the family was designed to be a team. This mission he's about to give them is not given just to the man or just to the woman. It's given to them as a family, but not just as a family, but as a multi-generational family. You'll notice, like, I don't think Adam and Eve could subdue the earth without generations, right? Just the two of them. So this mission had to be passed, the baton had to be passed from one generation to the next as they multiply out. And so family, in its basic nature, the way God designed the first family, was to be multi-generational. So that's a multi-generational team. Of course, again, he gave all 5 parts of this mission to them as a team, and then he gave them the mission, right? To be fruitful, multiply, fill, subdue, and rule. And that's all re-articulated by Jesus in the Great Commission. When Jesus says, all authority on earth has been given to me, therefore go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them and teaching them to obey everything I've commanded you. That commission has in it exactly the same elements, right? He tells them to be fruitful. What is that? To make disciples. To multiply. That's to make disciples who make disciples, right? He's told them, teach them to obey everything I've commanded you. Then he tells them to fill, right? To go to all the nations, to subdue, which is to teach them to obey everything I've commanded you, and then to rule, which is, it's where it all started. All authority has been given to me, therefore go make disciples. And so basically what we have is God designed a commission to the family in Genesis 1:28, to be fruitful, multiply, fill, subdue, and rule. We fumbled the mission, right, through the fall, and then Jesus came back, reconstituted, this family of God, and says, I want now you guys to go back out and retake the earth by being fruitful, multiply, fill, subdue, and rule through the making of disciples. And so it's important for us to understand, we're a part of both missions. In our family, we talk all the time about both missions. We are trying to have lots and lots of kids. We're trying to fulfill the Genesis 1:28 mandate to be fruitful, multiply, fill, subdue, and rule as a family. And what are we doing? What's the actual activity we're about? It's all about being fruitful, multiply, fill, subdue, and rolling through the making and multiplying of disciples. And so I just love the fact that the gospel is really, really clear, and that the whole Bible is clear about this whole arc of the story. And it gives us tremendous clarity around mission, and not just the what of mission or the why of mission, but the who. That's what we're talking about here, and that the family was actually an integral part of that.